Hello, hola. Thank you all for being here. What a wonderful day, right? A lot of depressing thoughts. Yes, yes. Hopefully, I'm going to have the opposite of that because my glass is always half full and I like to be on the positive side. I am a UX manager at the Home Depot. We are a home improvement retailer based in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Um, the video that you just saw was what we call the Home Depot cheer. We do this during our meetings. It's a regular cadence that we have. You'll notice that that particular video was recorded in people's homes. And the reason why is because in March of 2020, our IT, our product, and our UX organizations went fully remote. But we still keep this cheer because it's a call to action to ourselves to be present, to be wanting to kick ass every day for each other as well as our customers. My team, I have about 22 designers and researchers. We work on enterprise software for the stores in the United States. There's about 2,300 of them. It's an in-store selling order management system. The company, though, has 490,000 employees, and we focus on software specifically for them. Dave, I think you mentioned this earlier this morning, where if we focus on our employees, our associates, we call them associates, that they're gonna take care of the customer, and we really believe that at the Home Depot. So raise your hands so this is the interaction part. Raise your hands if you are attending a boot camp or have attended a boot camp in UX. A little higher. Okay, awesome. You can put your hands down. All right. How many have gone to a formal university to study user experience? Okay, a little bit more. And how many have just learned on your own? Wow, awesome. That's amazing. All right, so you should definitely pat yourself on the back because that takes a lot of determination. I don't even know how you do that. Very, very impressive. I started my career, I went to a 4-year university. I don't know why they say 4 years because some people don't even finish it in that time. But I did. Painfully, I did finish. But at the time, there wasn't UX, or it wasn't accessible to me. This was back in 1992 is when I started. And I thought I was going to be a doctor. Specifically, I thought I was going to be a psychiatrist. So by my second year, I had to take chemistry. I did not do very well. One of the reasons was I was studying chemistry, a different kind that involved dopamine and serotonin, and I now have an amazing husband of 24 years and 2 beautiful children. But I had to make a decision. Do I continue down the medical route and retake chemistry, or do I change majors? So I talked to my advisor, and I decided I'm going to switch majors. And so at the time, the program that they had at my university was called Studio Art. It's a mix of different art mediums, but I found passion in printing and graphic design. This was my first computer that I learned how to do animation and HyperCard. And I had my loving parents, got me a laptop in 1994, y'all. This is crazy. Look at that thing. So this is where I learned how to do Quark Express. I think it's in design now, Adobe. But that's what I would do my posters for my projects. And anyways, things have just changed completely after so many years. So this is my UX career ladder. journey, and I'd like to walk you through that today. So does that sound good? Yeah, all right, good, because otherwise the next 40 minutes would be really quiet. And I can't do any more dancing because my microphone's gonna come off. So I graduated in 1996. My first job was a graphic designer, and we made what, I don't know, well, I guess I still have it, but it's point of purchase marketing is what they called it. I worked for a marketing company, and we needed to make menus for restaurants like McDonald's and Burger King. And at the time, this is using Photoshop 4.0. I don't even think they have numbers anymore, right? We just call it the Creative Suite. There's a tool called the clipping path. And I had to painstakingly create clipping paths around the hamburgers, the software drinks, the milkshakes, the French fries, to then put them onto a different background to create these menu boards. Now what do? Right? We hold and press on our photo on our phone, and voila, I can put my face on anything. So that just blows my mind how far we've come. So I stayed in design for many years, but I did take a side path. I was working at a company where I was one designer in 400 engineers and business analysts. So I thought, you know what? I've taken my career as far as I could go with this company, and I decided to move into program management. Does anybody know what program managers are? All right, we got one over here. Okay, so I love this saying. I'm probably going to butcher the Spanish, but I learned this from my Latin American partners when I was doing some usability study, and they would say, "No me gusta." I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad. Sorry you don't like it. We'll change it. But that's how I felt about program management. I did not like it at all. It did not fit me because imagine I'm at I worked for, it's called Turner Broadcasting. So they own CNN. Well, at the time they, merged, split up, but they had CNN, Cartoon Network, Boomerang, and we were creating the first on-demand digital service. And my job was literally, I call it herding cats because I had to make sure that every team was doing what they needed to be doing in order to deliver this to millions of customers. It was super stressful, did not like it, no me gusta. So I decided to change. And I became a consultant, because that's what you do, right? You just move into consultancy. I loved actually being a consultant, and I learned a lot during that time in my period of my career. And then I thought, you know what, how about I be a product manager? Because I didn't like people telling me that I couldn't produce some of my designs. So if I was in charge, maybe I would make that happen. Well, guess what? There's also another layer above the product managers, so that still didn't work out for me. So I decided to go back into to management, but within UX. And the reason why I did that is because I had this amazing project that I did with the Home Depot when I was consulting. This is going to sound crazy, but we had 8 weeks. I had 8 weeks to train a team. We call them balanced teams. So it's a product manager, an engineer, and a UXer. How to use the double diamond method to figure out how we were going to reimagine our call centers at Home Depot. And we did it. It was the best project of my entire life, and that's why I decided to go into management. But things, back then, things were a little bit different when I was growing. I say growing up in the field because this is, 1996. In 2008, Dan Safer had created this Venn diagram. As you can see, it's, got some of the disciplines. Dave reminded me that Nathan Shedroff, actually in 1994, when I got my laptop, had even one that was even more simple. And then only 5 years later, Thomas Glasser added even more bubbles. I mean, this is insane. So those that are entering into this field, I would be overwhelmed. Look at me, I'm already holding my head just thinking about all of this, and I wouldn't even know where to begin. And then once you figure that out, you got to figure out the design processes. And then after you figure out the design process, then you got to figure out how you're going to put them into agile process. But the one thing that I think has helped me through all of this is the love of learning and being curious. Oop, I hope I just didn't double click. All right, hopefully that's right. Oh, okay, good. Just checking. So this is a quote from B.B. King. He is a famous American blues musician. Has anybody ever heard of him? Yeah? Oh my gosh, yes. All right, awesome. I love B.B. King. I love the blues. I love jazz. I love all that. And I love dancing. So B.B. King, he has this quote, right? So he's a musician, great, amazing. He had his own little style, right? And are there any musicians in the room? Yes, awesome. Okay, I was, and the reason why I say I play piano and I play percussion, but I was mediocre. And I really had to practice a lot to be up to where my peers are, which they seem to be just like naturally talented. So yes, I had to practice a lot. And that's what you have to do in design as well, right? You have to practice to get better at, doing interviews so you're not leading. What component do I need to pick for my design? What research method is going to be the right one? In 1999, I left graphic design to go work for a startup. So during that time, it was like, oh, print is going to be dead. It's going to get disruptive. And so I thought, well, I need to move over to digital. So that's what I did, right? So I started at a startup. It was, I was number 6 employee, working out of the co-founder's dining room in their apartment. They would change their name 3 times and never go IPO. Therefore, I'm not a billionaire like our Google. And I was told that I needed to design greeting cards. That was like our first venture into the startup. But over some time, not too long, the head of product, my boss, he sat me down and he's like, yeah, Virginia, you're really not a visual designer. That hurt so bad. Really, really crushed my soul. But what he did do was he said, you know what you are good at? You're good at complex problem solving, and I think you're going to be a great interaction designer. And so he handed me Alan Cooper's About Facebook. And I read it, I memorized it. I probably came a little bit cult-like to Alan's processes. You know how when you're first learning a process, you follow it like to the T? Yeah, that was me. And probably still today. I'm a little bit, I don't know. When you learn it and you understand it, you just want to keep on doing the same thing over and over again. So I learned how to do customer interviews. I learned how to create personas, conduct usability tests using paper prototypes. Does anybody do that anymore? Yeah. You should try it sometime. It's a lot of fun. And then I became an interaction designer. And I focused on this craft while, over time with others that had specialized in information architecture and visual design. And now I'm learning how to lead, be a better leader, so I'm reading some more books. And with the love of learning, I'm not afraid to try new things. See, it's in those uncomfortable moments that I think that's where you really learn the most. So, I'm going to talk about baking, because I love to bake, but I can't just take some prepackaged cookie dough off the shelf. No, I have to torture myself, and I have to learn how to do French pastries. And it's a very finicky process on how to do a macaron. And so you have to make sure the egg whites are at a certain peak. You've got to make sure your almond flour and the sugar is very refined and thin. And then there's what's called the macaron, which is like how you fold in the ingredients. And this is the hardest part, because if you stir it, you get flat macarons. If you overstir it, you get cracks in your macarons. But if you get it just right, you get these, what they call the feet, the beautiful feet. This took me months to finally get here. But yeah, that's probably, I'm a little bit obsessed with that. What I am not good at is empanadas. And I'm gonna take a little side journey right now. I had an empanada earlier today, which was really, really good. And then I, of course, got it all over myself. So I had to go leave and then get changed. I think that was because I put the empanada in my slides. So I think they got revenge on me. But once you learn those basic skills, that's when you can start experimenting. And you can take on more challenging problems because you don't have to learn the basics anymore. Feedback is important with your craft. So for those attending, finishing up a boot camp, or those learning on your own, have you gone through a design critique before? Okay, good. That's great. And then those that are working on teams right now, yes, you are going through the design critiques. Okay, so I think this is really important in our process. So at the Home Depot, this is part of our culture. This is how when we bring on new designers, this is how we ingrain them into our culture, as well as it doesn't matter what level you're at, you can always do a design critique. So this is an example of when we were in person. I don't know if this is how your design critiques go, but I'll describe it. So the designer comes with the project that they're working on. They'll post it up on the wall. They'll do a brief walkthrough of what the type of feedback that they want and what the flow is of the design. And then what we do is we use the little dot stickies and we put our initials on them. And so it starts creating this heat map. And when you do the dot stickies, you're also using a post-it note card, whatever you want, to then write your feedback. But this is how we do our feedback, because we want our newer designers to feel safe and encourage them to continue to share their work. So we don't put things like no me gusta. We put it in a form of a question. So let's say, for example, one of these designs didn't have like a page title. So instead of saying something like, what's going on here, or something like that, we would say, how does the customer move through this flow? So we just form it in a question, and it makes it a little bit more safe and comfortable for designers to go through the process. And then this is them, standing up in front of the board. So like I said, we're all remote now. So we had to think about how are we going to translate that into a remote world. And so this is what it looks like in Miro. So very similar, actually. So, but have you heard the saying, feedback is a gift? Sometimes that gift is really hard to hear. And I've received a lot of feedback in my career. So stuff like, I'm not a visual designer. That one hurt. I was also told I was too emotional. Don't ever tell a woman that she's too emotional. It's not good. Don't do that, please. But feedback's a gift. And I took that and I said, okay, well, how am I being too emotional? Maybe when I want to have those passionate conversations, it needs to be more of a one-on-one. And then if I'm in a large group setting, I'll have to rethink how I'm going to deliver that message. So as you move through your career journey, you need to remain curious, learn all the things, but I like to master one at a time. And experiment, fail, try again, unless it's empanadas, and embrace feedback from others. So the other thing I wanted to share with you is about surrounding yourself with people that are going to support you. And I call that, those are your tribes, right? And I found my home early on in my career with the Interaction Design Association. So while I was learning how to be an interaction designer, in the beginning, we just had this small email group. So think of Slack, but it's in an email form. Pretty hard to navigate, but we were sharing so much information constantly. And there's also, we've grown over time. We now are, a global organization. We have regional conferences like this one, woo, right? And IXDA provided me with education since there weren't, any formal establishments at the time when I was trying to learn. They allowed me to network when I was trying to find a new position, or they provided me lifelong friendships. And it wasn't until 2011 that I started giving back to the organization. And knowing that I had moved to London at the time, and knowing that there was going to be an Interaction Design Association there, made my move a little bit more comfortable, right? A little bit less anxiety, because I knew I had like my tribe that I was going to be able to go to. And that's where I met Boone and Jason. And they wanted something different for the London design community. There were other, meetups going on at the time, but they weren't really hitting the mark. So we wanted to get back to the roots of interaction design with our programming. And so I think we were a dynamic trio. So Boone and Jason were great at all the programming, the masterminds behind that, and I was really good at getting sponsors to pay for the food and the drinks. So then I moved back to the States, and I became a regional coordinator for North America. That's where I kind of stepped up my commitment with IXDA. And I met I still know some of you are here. So this is just amazing community, and I can't, talk about it without talking about Wayne. And Wayne's up at the top there. We lost Wayne about a couple of months ago, and it was really a big blow, and just an amazing person to have in our design community. So we really miss him. So don't forget to give back. It's super easy. You can just make a recommendation on the types of events you want, or you can come to an event like this and volunteer. But that's what keeps us going and providing this education to all of us. There was also a point in 2013. Yeah, so there was a period between like 2008, 2010, when Agile was like becoming, well, it probably was popular for a while, but it wasn't until it was starting to affect me, because of how I mentioned that I was a designer 1 within 400 of engineers. Well, now they were asking me to deliver even faster. So I kind of was struggling, and I needed to understand how I was going to change my processes and fit into this. So I started finding other designers in our community. So Jeff Goeth, Josh Seiden, they wrote the book on Lean UX. Earlier during this time, we were able to collaborate on what I was doing at my company as well as their company. And then Desiree C is also the one that introduced what's called the dual track Agile method. So how are we going to incorporate our process into Agile? And so it was a really exciting time, lots of learning going on. Then there was also another development that was happening not too long after that, and that was the DevOps. DevOps was, again, another way of like, how fast can we ship software? So the continuous deployment. And I once gave a talk all on toilets to this group of engineers. And the reason why I picked toilets is, anybody ever use one of those automated toilets and how they may flush at the inappropriate times? Yeah. So my point was, I was trying to make to the room full of engineers was that sometimes you don't have to over-engineer a solution where a simple foot pedal would have solved everything to prevent, obviously they were creating them for hygiene at the time, but they were just wasted tons of water, and then they also scared the crap out of kids, where parents were actually creating devices to put over the sensor so their children wouldn't go screaming in the bathroom. So your mentors and your champions, your cheerleaders, they can look different along the career path. And most recently, I moved to Colorado, and I love to torture myself, like do the French pastries, and then I also like to do half marathons, but for charity. Let me point that out, okay? Because this is not made for half marathon, but I will do it for charity. 10 years ago, my son was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and I needed an outlet. I needed a way to figure out how am I going to find him a cure, as well as the other millions of people that suffer with Crohn's and colitis. So I started doing these half marathons, and I met some fabulous people. These are two of the coaches. That's Art and Joe, and this is the man that made me fail chemistry. So when we moved to Colorado, I was like, yeah, I got to get into this culture, right? Everybody's outdoors and hiking and things like that. So I decided we're going to do this hike called the Manitou Incline. It's pretty brutal. Here's us at the bottom. It goes all the way to the top, 2,768 steps. I think it's how much is it? It's about a 2,000 elevation gain over a mile. Y'all are probably like, whatever, Virginia, we've got the Andes Mountains, so that's nothing. But I was really nervous. I had a lot of anxiety, and it's probably because I was watching or reading Facebook posts. So don't do that. But Art had texted me a week before we were going to go on the incline, and he said, hey, you want to go on a run? Where he was practicing for another half marathon, and I go, oh, I can't. I'm going to be going on this hike, and I described it all to him, and then he texts me back, and he's like, what do you say? You'll be fine, right? And at that moment, my anxiety just went completely away. And the reason why is because Art knew what I was capable of. He knew that I had done 5 half marathons already. He knew that I would be able to get to the top. Now, my son did it in 45 minutes. I did it in about an hour and 45 minutes, but I did make it to the top. And my son actually came back down halfway and then finished it again. 19, you're young, so he can do that. But, there's going to be people that you're going to need in your life during your career, and the people that know what you can do and what you're capable of, especially when the things get uncomfortable. So go find your tribe. I hope you find a Wayne, like I did. Take advantage of what this organization has to offer you, as well as others in the community. Give back as much as you take, and surround yourself with cheerleaders. In March of 2020, everyone was sent home at Home Depot, thinking that we were going to be returning. And I had just taken over another team with my already existing team. And not only did we have to learn to work from home, but a lot of our associates were dealing with a lot of really bad stuff. They had loss of family and friends. We had social injustice going on. And it was a very dark time to try to motivate a team to keep on producing. But Home Depot was considered an essential business, so our doors did not close. And our associates, I feel, needed UX more than ever. Because sometimes we needed to create new ways of engaging with, sometimes they were hostile customers. I'm sure you probably saw videos going on when people coming into the retail stores. And within 2 weeks of being sent home, we came up with a scrappy solution of curbside delivery. It was really, you had to call into the store to get someone to come and hand you your goods that you purchased. But it worked, right? And it kept our employees safe. And it's still, have moved this now into a digital platform, and it's a much better solution, and people still love it today and use it. And while the business kept moving forward, I needed to ensure my teams were mentally healthy to keep up with the demand. And one thing we had at our advantage was our culture. And we needed to learn how to translate that to online. And as managers, we practice servant leadership at Home Depot. What does that mean? It means that we're growing our teams in their career. We have open communication. We continue to sustain our culture. And this is the way that I needed to build trust with my team. They needed to know that everything was going to be okay during this dark time. I also needed to know that from my leaders that they were going to be taking care of us. So during that, uncertain time, the biggest gap that we experienced was that connection that we had with everyone every day in the office. It was, we went from walls of stickies to in-person research in the field. And then, this is one of our field days. And then now we're at home with a screen of boxes. So what we started doing was trying to figure out how we're going to move those, in person onto a digital platform. And the one way we did it was we had coffee together, happy hours, fun Fridays. This is a coffee chat where we got to play with the Snapchat filters. You guys ever remember that? A pickle or a cucumber, I guess, and an avocado. I don't even know what's going on over here. And then on our fun Fridays, we would have our talented team would share one of their skills. And this was one of our in-house designers who's also a painter, and someone, they drew him as Bob Ross. So there's a saying that says, takes years to build trust, seconds to break, and forever to repair. And for those starting out in your career, I want you to stick to your commitments. Don't overpromise. Be open and transparent in what you're delivering. And use your superpower of empathy to understand why some people may be resistant to your ideas. There's always something usually behind that story. And also celebrate not just the big moments, but the small ones as well. So here we are, yet another interesting time where we're learning how to use AI with our own, hopefully with our own processes, like Gustavo told us, and with our users. And we have an economic crisis and war. And I can't help but remain positive because I've been through this before. I started at the tech bubble. There was a Gulf War, there were 2 recessions, now a pandemic. And the word that comes to mind that has made me witness 3 layoffs in my career is resiliency. So I'm going to pull up my career ladder again. And I said that I witnessed the 3 layoffs, and that's because I was the one that was left behind while my other friends were laid off. So the first time was when I was at the startup. I had gone on vacation, a ski vacation, and I'm on the slopes, and I get a call. Yes, I had a cell phone in 1999. It was a flip phone, and you pulled the little antenna up. And yes, I had poor work-life balance because I actually answered the call. And it was my boss, and he was wanting to let me know that when I came back to work, half the people were going to be gone. The second time was when I was working for Turner Broadcasting as, well, I was an interaction designer and then I moved to program management. But they did an awful job of that layoff. But that was the second time that happened. And then the third time was, gosh, I think sorry, I messed up my story. I think there was 2 layoffs at Turner Broadcasting. But during that time, it was pretty stressful for those that are, I know, yes, I don't understand like those that have gone through being laid off. But there also is anxiety and stress for those that are left behind, because now we're taking on more responsibility. So I know that I can't think of that, so I'm sorry. But during that, with being resilient is, you have to continue to keep trying and trying again. You have to figure out how to influence, during that time, and don't give up. So, and then you have to pave your own path and embrace change. I think we've all heard that today, right, with embracing change. So, in closing, I want you to promise me that you're going to do your homework, you're going to be present, you're going to influence and drive change, and nevertheless, you're going to persist. Now, if you guys would all humor me, I would love to start a designer cheer. And so I know that these seats are really uncomfortable because I've sat in them all day with you. So how about we stand up? All right, are you ready? All right. I can't move around, right? Because hopefully I don't mess it up. All right, so we're going to start with a clap. Clap with me. All right. Yeah, let's get a little faster. Give me a D. Give me an E. Give me an S. Give me an I. Give me a G. Give me an N. Give me an E. Give me an R. What's that spell? Who are we? And what are we going to do? Or kick ass, yes.